My name is Tom Jode, and my wife is Linda. I'm only 5'10" and 165 pounds, but I have my strengths. We met in college when I was 23 and she was 21. I served in the Army while taking classes to earn a double degree in economics and accounting. She majored in biology. My Army service did not require constant presence in hotspots, but it was dangerous. Our unit was assigned to carry out individual missions, often involving the punishment of someone who wanted to appear as a friend. In short, we were killers. My specialty was planning and close combat. I graduated at age 25, and 2 years later I left the Army and married Linda. In 4 years, we had 2 girls. I worked from home, handling the accounting for some local businesses, and also did some sales from home. Linda was busy with the children, but when our marriage was 10 years old, she took a job in a local laboratory associated with the college. Both girls were in school, and I was working from home so she could return to a job she enjoyed. We lived in the house where I grew up. I've owned it since my parents moved to Florida. I bought it from them when I was in college. Some of our Army missions gave the unit a chance to get a good reward, which we divided into 10 parts, so I had the money to buy what was needed. One day at the end of February, we decided to go out with our neighbor friends for dinner and dance at a club afterwards. There were 8 of us, and we all had babysitters for the kids overnight. Linda and I booked a room at a hotel associated with a dance club. She looked striking. 5'6" in, slender brunette, wearing a blue silk dress. We had a great dinner and were having a lot of fun dancing in the club when a group of 6 people showed up. One of them was a large, fair-haired guy, Mark Stevens, a professional midfielder for the local team. All the women at our table immediately noticed him. Stevens was with a charming blonde who had what looked like a large wedding ring on her finger. They danced together. Our friend June said she was a cheerleader for the team, and she's engaged to Stevens. After they had been there for a while, I noticed Stevens looking at our table. He stood up and walked towards us. He immediately turned to Linda and simply asked her to dance without even looking at me. I put my hand on her shoulder to stop her, but she got up from the table and went with him. She didn't even look back at me. I was more than a little annoyed. I was even more annoyed when, after 2 fast dances, it was time for a slow one and Linda melted into Mark's arms. I stood up and walked to the bar, right past them. The women at our table didn't like this, and they made that clear. But I went anyway. Not that it mattered much to Linda, who didn't notice me passing by at all. I had coffee. When the slow number ended, they parted, and Linda returned to her table. I stayed at the bar and drank my coffee. I saw her look around for me and saw me there. She looked a little worried. She sat down next to June. I walked over, and as I got closer, they both stood up. I asked, "Did you have fun?" "Sorry, maybe I got a little carried away." "Maybe so." June chimed in. "Tom, it was just a little dance, nothing special." "I thought it was insulting to me," I said. I sat down. "June and I are going to the ladies' room." "We'll be right back," Linda said. They left, and Mark left through the front door, without the blonde. June returned, but Linda was not with her. I asked, "Where is she?" "Tom, Linda is not here now. She left with Mark." "Are you kidding?" I ran outside and saw Linda getting into the red Escalade. The car started moving. I returned to the table. June was talking to the others at the table. "Did you all know what she was doing?" June said. "Tom, you have to let her spend the night. She will return to you tomorrow." "No, I don't need her to come back. Let her know this when you talk to her. We're finished." When I said this, there was a general uproar at the table. They all thought I was too harsh. So I barked at them. "I don't want anything to do with any of you anymore." You all knew, and no one warned me. So maybe I could have stopped her. Now she will lose everything for a night of sex. I went to the front desk, but saw a blonde woman at a table with the other 4 who had come with Stevens. She cried. I went. "Are you his girlfriend?" I asked. "Yes, I was his girlfriend, but not now." "Where did they go?" I asked. "To our house on Cherry Lane. He said he would never do it once we were engaged." "Excuse me, was that your wife?" "Was is the key word here," I said. "He'll finish with her in the morning and take her home." He likes to gloat over his husband. What an idiot. At this, two other guys, both big, one black, the other white, were offended. I ignored them. I gave May my business card and asked her to call me. She smiled, but cried. I walked away. I took my coat, but left Linda's coat. I went to the hotel room and took my suitcase, but left Linda's suitcase. I checked out. As I drove home, a plan was fully formed in my head. This has happened to me before when I was in the military. That's why I was still alive. I wish I had come up with a plan before Linda left. I drove my car into the garage, went inside and turned on the security system. I went down to the basement and took out the rope that I had kept for many years. Then I went upstairs, took off my clothes, and jogged to the second floor. I took black underwear, a black hoodie, and dark gray sweatpants, old sneakers, and 2 pairs of gloves. I also took a balaclava. I put it all on and went up to the attic with a rope. I secured it securely to the beam, just as I did as a child. I climbed out of the narrow window and jumped down the wall of the house. On the other side, there was nothing but forest. I ran and jumped over the side fence, down the path to the workshop located there. I went inside and grabbed a backpack, a few extra wool socks, a pocket knife, and an old hand axe that I had deep in my toolbox. I put it all in my backpack. Then I took my bike and rode, pedaling towards the river, through a small forest. I crossed the bridge over the river and headed towards Cherry Lane. I saw a house with a statue of a football player and a red Escalade parked in front of it. I took an axe and a knife, jumped over the fence, and ran past the SUV. I used an axe to break the passenger side window. The alarm sounded. Then I jumped out onto the porch and hid behind a column near the door. I didn't have to wait long. The light came on and the door opened. The idiot stuck his head out and used the key fob to disable the alarm. He went outside. He had a semi-automatic pistol. I hit him on the head with an axe as he passed me. He fell and crawled. I applied one powerful strike with an axe with both hands. I returned and closed the front door. I turned and ran away. I jumped over the stone wall and returned to my bike. I put on wool socks, put the axe, knife, gloves, and shoes in the backpack and zipped it up. I jumped into the saddle and flew to the river. When I arrived at the bridge, I stopped and threw the entire backpack as far as possible into the river, which was quite far away. It had rained the day before and the current was fast. I rode my bike back in the direction of the house, through the nearby forest to the workshop. I went inside. I took off my socks and put on another pair of sneakers. I sprayed the bike's handles and pedals with an ammonia solution and wiped them off. Then I ran back, jumped over the side fence, and climbed up the side of the house again. It was not as easy as I thought, but I managed and climbed through the small window. I pulled the rope and rolled it. I wiped the windowsill with a rag and ran with the rope to the basement. I took off all my clothes, including my mask and gloves, and put them in the washing machine. I then showered in the basement bathroom for a while, washing everything twice. Once that was done, I put on my gym shorts and headed upstairs. I left the basement door open so I could hear when the washing machine stopped. I thought and put on the clothes I wore to the club the night before. I went down to the basement and put the wet clothes in the dryer. I went upstairs, prepared snacks, and drank a glass of whiskey. Then I sat for a while, thinking things through again. When the dryer stopped, I took the clothes upstairs and put everything back in its place. The balaclava went to the back of the closet where I always kept it. I looked at my watch. It was 2:50 a.m. All this, starting from the moment I entered the house, returning from the club, began at midnight. I went downstairs, sat on the sofa, and drank more whiskey. I fell asleep. I was woken up by the doorbell at 6:02 a.m. I looked at the door camera display and saw 2 people, an African-American woman and a white guy with short hair. Cops. The doorbell rang again, and I opened it. "Who are you?" "You look like a policeman," I said. "I'm Detective Asper, and this is Detective Logan," said the black woman. They flashed their badges. I made an uncertain face. "Is this Linda? He didn't hurt her, did he?" "No, she was not physically harmed. But Mr. Stevens was attacked. Can we go inside?" "Certainly. Where is Linda? Did you bring her with you?" White detective said, No, sir, she is in the hospital being treated for shock. I paused for a second. I just looked at them, and they just looked at me. Have a seat, I said, pointing to the sofa, but they were sitting separately on 2 chairs with straight backs, so I used the sofa. I think you should explain what happened, I said. What have you been doing since your wife left the club with Stevens? It was Logan again. Just tell me what happened, okay? Asper replied, No, you just have to answer the question. I went to our hotel room, picked up my things, checked out, and came here. I drank myself to sleep on this sofa. You woke me up. Is there anyone else here? No. The children are staying with the nanny for the night. Did you make any calls? You wrote to someone, to prove that you were here. No. But I never left. Asper looked around. I see you have a security system. What does it include? It covers all the doors. I think I can prove to you that I was here. Let's go upstairs. They followed me into the upstairs office, and I sat down at the computer desk. I showed them the system, and they watched me upload data from 6 p.m. until they arrived. I gave them a quick look. The system was targeted to all 3 doors, the front, side, and sliding patio door leading to the pool. The side I went down had no door, looked out onto the woods, and had 2 large windows, neither of which opened, so there was no surveillance there. We'll have to take this computer, Logan said. Why? You saw how I downloaded security data. Because you could have ruined it before we got here. Okay, but I can't give it away for more than 1 day. This is a work computer and I need it. I have a replacement, but it won't last long. Look at me. I'm gonna download some stuff onto this external drive, including what I just gave you. And I did it. They wanted to look around, and I let them, but insisted that they stick together and be with me. They took a few pictures and then left. It was 7:10 a.m. I called Linda's parents. Their names were John and Stephanie, and they lived next door. But at that moment, they were in their house, by the lake. I told them what happened and that the police said Linda was in shock at the hospital. John was simply stunned by what Linda did. Stephanie might not have been all that surprised. Stephanie asked, "Are you going to see her?" "No, sorry, that's why I called you. I really don't want anything to do with her after what she did. It's bad that the guy was attacked, but it's not my fault. Apparently, he's done this kind of thing many times. When she gets out of the hospital, she needs to stay away from me in the house. We can arrange to have her things moved." John said, "Why don't you move?" And she can't stay. The children lived there all their lives. This is my home. This is not community property acquired during marriage. John was a lawyer, and I assumed he would try to work something out. You just had to wait. He said, "That's pretty cruel, Tom." Not as cruel as what she did to me. The conversation ended there. Then I called my parents in Florida. I told them as best I could what happened. They were also shocked by Linda's behavior. My dad turned on the TV and told me there was news about Stevens. They said that he was attacked and killed in his home. This is not news to me. The phone rang, a landline. It was Judy. "Tom, where is Linda? We heard that Mark was killed. She's in shock in the hospital, as the police told me." "You saw her? Which hospital?" "I don't know. I don't plan to date her. Do not be like that. She needs your support." "She will never get any support from me. I don't care if her big night was ruined if it was ruined. I'm going to visit her. You're a pig." "Did you kill Mark?" "No, but I don't regret it." Good riddance. Judy hung up. I showered again and got dressed to go pick up the kids from the babysitter. It was around 08:20. When I got there, I discovered that they had not heard anything about the evening's events. We went home and they wanted to know where Linda was. I said, "I don't think she'll be here today. She has something she must do. We'll just spend the day without her. Dress for football." I took them to the soccer complex where they had games at noon and 1:30. I was pretty relaxed watching them play. Michelle, the youngest, was quite nice. Laura, not so much, but she tried really hard and it was good exercise for them. After the games were over, we bought ice cream and went home. There were several messages on my mobile phone. I had the sound on mute while I was hanging out with the girls. One was from Linda's parents telling me that she was at St. Jude's and was unresponsive. One was from a doctor at the hospital he asked me to call. One was from Judy. She told me that Linda was at the police station and wasn't talking to anyone. She said I should probably cool off and bring the girls to her. I told the girls that their mom was in the hospital and that she was unharmed but emotionally traumatized by something that happened the night before. They wanted to know what happened. I told them, "Your mother went with a famous football player to his house last night to have sex. There's no other way to say it. I thought about hiding it from you, but I decided that you would find out. While she was there, someone attacked the football player, but apparently not her. But she must have found him or something because she's in the hospital, in shock. They weren't sure if they wanted to go to her, but I told them to get dressed, and we went. I called the doctor back, Laura Thompson. She said Linda was traumatized and was currently in a catatonic state. I asked her about bringing the kids. She hesitated. The doctor asked, "Are you going to visit her?" "I really don't want to see her at all. I assume you know why, but I can bring the girls if you think it might help." "Do they know what happened? I mean, about the surrounding circumstances?" "You mean sex between Linda and the football player?" "Yes," I told them. "They are dressed and ready to go if you think it might help Linda." "Okay, meet me in room 311 in 30 minutes, she said. We went there. Dr. Thompson was in her late 40s and a psychiatrist. We talked for a while and then she turned to the girls. She said their mother was in complete shock and seemed unaware of her surroundings. She said meeting the girls might help. Did they want to see her? They did just that. I walked them to the door and looked inside. Linda sat on the bed staring at the TV with cartoons. The girls hesitantly approached her. Laura, the eldest, touched her hand and called her mom. Shelley followed her. But there was no reaction. Shelley began to cry. I walked up to her, took her in my arms, and looked at Linda. Nothing. I took Laura's hand and led them to the exit. "Well, we tried," I said. "Will she wake up?" Laura asked. "Of course, someday," I said. "Maybe you can visit her again soon. Maybe when she comes to her senses, you'll be able to see her." "What if she doesn't wake up?" Shelley whispered. I reassured, "She will wake up, I know it." "Maybe not soon." Doctor said, "Girls, I'll definitely let you know when she comes to her senses after this." We left the hospital. Both girls were crying in the car. Maybe I shouldn't have taken them. I just wanted to see Linda and see if their presence would help. Despite my rude reaction to her cheating, I didn't wish it on her. I felt bad about it, even though she deserved to suffer, but not like it is now. I felt tears running down my cheeks. When we got home, I made them scrambled eggs and toast. I deliberately involved them in cooking, pretending that I needed help. It seemed that the opportunity to command me encouraged them. Then I turned on the movie for them. I went into my office and called my friend to see if I could get any information about what happened at the Stevens house after I left. He was a public defender and good at his job. He said I wouldn't be able to get police reports, but he had an idea. Ambulance mileage reports were publicly available. I asked him to answer if he could, and we hung up. I went into the living room and absent-mindedly watched a movie, wondering what might happen. An hour later, my lawyer friend called back. He said he emailed me information about calling an ambulance. I told him about the police visit. He said that if the security system showed that no one had come or gone, I probably wouldn't have anything to worry about. But he also said that the police might get a search warrant or might want to talk to me again. He recommended a lawyer if needed. I didn't think I needed a lawyer, but I called the woman anyway after I saw the ER report. Police found Linda with Stephen's head in her lap. She was covered in blood, wearing only a thin robe. She repeated, "No, no, no, no," over and over again. The police picked her up and put her in the ambulance. She was unresponsive when the ambulance arrived and all the way to the hospital. An officer rode with her, asking if she saw who did it, but he didn't receive any answer. It made me sick, and it made me wonder if she would ever recover. I looked up PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I've already looked for it before, for myself. I have studied the shock-induced catatonic state. It seemed that people usually recovered from a catatonic state, but could suffer from PTSD for years. The lawyer, Joan Drake, made an appointment for me on Monday morning at 09:30. She gave me her mobile number in case the police arrived early. They didn't do this. The girls and I spent Sunday goofing around as I tried to convince them that Linda would return eventually, but would still need our help. For me, I wondered what her reaction to me might be when she had it. I was pretty sure she didn't see anything, and if she really saw something, it would only be a man in all black and a mask. But maybe she will assume that I did it. I did not know. I didn't think she had any experience with me that would have led her to seriously think that I was capable of doing what I actually did. On Monday, I took the girls to school. I followed local news coverage of Stevens's murder. Linda's name was not mentioned, but it was said Stevens was accepting a married woman when he was attacked outside his home. A neighbor called the police in response to Linda's screams. Until now, no one other than the authorities had linked Linda or me to the murder. But I assumed that this would change over time. Joan Drake was a graceful blonde of about 45. She was also quite edgy, just like my friend said. I told her the story from the beginning and gave her a copy of the ambulance report. She was shocked. She stared at me. I looked back at her and simply said that the police had a copy of the CCTV footage and that it had not been tampered with and showed absolutely no one coming in or out between the time I got home and the time the police came. I asked her to return my computer because I needed it for work. I gave her the advance and listened as she called the police station and asked for Detective Asper. "Hello, Detective," she said. "This is Joan Drake. I'm calling about Tom Joad. I want to know if I can return his work computer." "No, I think you had enough time to see if there were any changes. You know there weren't any." "Okay, I'll send someone tomorrow morning to pick it up from you." "No, I'll send someone from the office. He won't come." I raised my hand. I mouthed, "I'll come." She nodded. "Okay, he'll be there." 9:00 wow. When she hung up, I told her that I would not talk to the cops and that I would have my phone with me to record conversations if there were any. I left.